Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to Ed Explorer. We want to thank those who have been watching our videos from around the world. And this channel will focus on African content, and we also make sure that it's more informative and educating. In this episode today, we want to first of all send our congratulatory message to the President of Ghana, who has been awarded the African of the Year, Mr. Akufo Nana Addo, who has been an inspiring new generation leaders of the continent, has actually won this award. We're going to be laying out today the reason why some of the videos that we've done here at Ed Explorer, it's as if he's been listening to us and putting those particular messages out there. It's someone that has also inspired other African emerging leaders and the youth population. He's made some progress in his own country. Of course, there are challenges in Ghana, but I believe that on this channel today, we want to send our greetings. In this video also, I'm going to lay out 8 reasons as to the reason why we believe he was actually recognized or picked out with regards to this award. And all of those reasons, we've made videos on this channel. For those of you who don't know Forbes, the Forbes magazine is an American business magazine owned by the Integrated Whale Media Investment and Forbes family, published 8 times a year. It features articles on finance, industry, investing, and marketing topics. Forbes also reports to related subjects such as technology, communication, science, politics, and law. Its headquarters is located in JC City, New Jersey. We also here at Ed Explorer, we want to congratulate the President of Ghana, Mr. Nana Akufo Addo, for his award. We think that his success will rub the shoulders of other African leaders, and we are looking forward to seeing how 2022 will be a transformative year in the African continent. The President of Ghana, Nana Akufo Addo, has been adjourned the 2021 African of the Year. Previous winners of this coveted award include Rwandan President Paul Kagame of 2018. You also have the President of the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina of 2019, and also the World Trade Organization Director General, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, as of 2020.
Congratulations, Mr. President, on being awarded with the Forbes African Person of the Year 2021. We recognize each year exceptional and exemplary individuals across the African continent. What does this recognition mean to you as an African of the Year in a time where not only Ghana, but the world is facing unprecedented challenges?
Well, first of all, I'm overwhelmed. I have to thank you very much for recognizing the work that we're doing here in Ghana to be able to get this award. It's the name of your magazine it's a global brand. Everybody knows about it. And for its African version to pick on me, it's a big honor for me. I'm very grateful for it. What does it mean? I understand it more than anything else to mean that the world is looking at the work we're doing here in Ghana. It's an inspiration for us and an encouragement for us to continue down the path that we've set ourselves.
Number 1, Mr. Nana Akufo also talked about the African continental free trade. If you listen to his interview done by CNBC Africa.
Ghana is now the trade capital of Africa under the AfCFTA. How would you want to take advantage of this?
I think the question itself in some ways gives the answer. This project, building a common market in Africa, has been on the table for a very long time. Rules are still being made as we are going along, but the trading has begun. We began trading on the 1st of January within the market. Considerable amount of the rules and regulations that need to be put in place to make it function equitably for all the nations of the continent are now in place, and the implications are enormous. Suddenly, traders, producers, manufacturers, exporters have a market of 1.2 billion people as their target. The projections are that that market is going to grow to a market of 2.5 billion people in 30 years' time, by 2050.
Now, when you look at the African continental free trade, which we've pointed out, it's just so important for the African continent. If we're talking about the importance here, we are underestimating the value. Now, with a population of over 1.2 billion people, which is expected to increase by 2035. Now, if Africa actually harness this population and also do business among itself, the benefits are enormous. Africa does not trade among itself. African countries do not really open their borders to do business. We've laid that out in this channel. And basically, this actually slows down the African growth rate that we've been talking about. Now, if African using this population that they do have can trade among themselves and do business in a professional way, open its borders, then the continent will see this growth and progress, and the free African continental free trade will see lots of benefits, and that would trickle down to the common people and transform the way business is done in the continent. We did a video about that. Considering the African Continental Free Trade, it is a flagship project of the African Union, established in 2018 to create a single market for goods and services, facilitated by movement of persons to promote industrial development, sustainability, as well as inclusiveness in socio-economic growth to deepen the economic integration of Africa. As of the 5th of February 2021, 54 member states of African Union have signed this particular agreement, with 36 countries deposited their instrument of ratification that started trading under the AfCFTA agreement that began in January of 2021. The agreement connects about 1.3 billion people across the continent, with a combination or combined GDP estimated at about 3.4 trillion of US dollars. But the question is that why the AfCFTA matters, talking about the free trade agreement. If you consider the intra-US trade, which is 50% of the trade, Asia has about 60% if you consider that, and in Europe there is about 70% in terms of the intertrade. However, intra-African trade currently accounts for about just 12% of the trade, significantly lower than in many other regions, considering the figures we just gave a moment ago. This limits numbers of foreign investment within the continent, while increasing trade deficiencies or dependency and foreign market. The AfCFTA is the most exciting moment for the continent of Africa in this regard. As for Africa's post-COVID-19 recovery, the agreement offers opportunities for collaboration, action, allowing Africans to do business with each other and strengthening African resilience. Now, this is just so important because if the barriers are broken down into movable barriers, that businesses, people can move from one country to the other and really do business effectively, the African continent will basically grow in a number of ways. It's just so important that this particular thing that the continent has achieved, I would say that it's one of the most important achievements for the African continent. The free trade agreement is a very useful thing that will grow business, that will develop the continent in a number of ways. Because actually, Africa does not trade among itself. Africa only focuses to trade with Europe, America, Asia. But you do have countries in the continent that have 50 million, 60 million people, and the continent does not trade among themselves. These are really huge consumers, and you can't just be ignoring these people and then you're focusing to trade where you do have what it takes to do this business in your own region. So Mr. Addo talked about this, that this is some of the things that he's been pushing forward and talking about.
16% of the collective GDP of the 54 states in Africa is derived from intra-African trade, is the lowest of any regional trading group in the world. You compare it to the European Union, for instance, 27 nations, 75% of their collective GDP is generated from intra-European trading. You take the bloc in Asia, ASEAN, which groups I think no more than 6 or 7 nations. 56-7% of the trading internal trading of this community accounts for the collective GDP. So there is all the advantages, obvious advantages there are in being able to trade with yourselves. Unfortunately, partly as a result of our colonial inheritance, and secondly, absence of policy, we have not been focusing on trading amongst ourselves. The focus has been on looking outside the continent for trade, investment, etc. But the market now exists for us to be able to be, if you like, a little bit much more inward looking, and insisting that our first priority is how to expand trade with our neighbors, how to expand trade within the continent. And we see that as a very much more secure route to bringing prosperity to the continent. So it's a major step forward. Well, and I'm particularly happy that Ghana has been honored by her peers to be responsible for the Secretariat. It's here.
Let's also talk about some of the things that they've been projected in Ghana and in a number of other African countries, which we find fascinating.
And those who have the opportunity to exploit the possibilities of this market are obviously going to reap big dividends. So what we've been trying to do here in Ghana, apart from struggling to have the Secretariat here with its obvious implications, is also to prepare our business community, our country, its institutions, as well as our business community, to be able to maximize the opportunities that this focus gives us. I think that there are tremendous opportunities in strengthening our manufacturing sector, improving the productivity of our agriculture, taking great advantage of the digital revolution, which the fourth industrial revolution that all of us are talking about, and which is now an important driving force in making of policy in Ghana and in implementation of policy. So yes, it presents an enormous opportunity for us.
Mr. Addo also talked about very important things with regards to the ratification of this African Continental Free Trade. There are challenges that are in place, of course. I mean, there is no particular trade that will be implemented just all of a sudden. Now, he talked about the importance of the ratification and also the implementation, which is a very important phase. We've seen other very renowned businessmen in the continent. For example, this video here.
Jack Ma, what an honor and a pleasure. Welcome to South Africa. It's your second visit to the continent.
Yes.
What were your first impressions when you arrived into Africa for the first time?
Well, because I had a lot of wrong, message information about Africa, like a poor and messy and all this stuff before I came.
Yeah.
But when I landed, I was amazed by the nature. The people, they're so simple. We look at their eyes and full of passion. They want to change.
And if you consider that the COVID-19 challenges, he also debunked the lies that Africa was going to be the epicenter of COVID-19. I mean, don't get me wrong. This COVID pandemic has been a disaster. I mean, there are lots of families around the world that are grieving. Our hearts to these families. And there is no better time for people to take precaution as to the different challenges that this pandemic has brought into different communities and around the world. But again, Mr. Akufo pointed out that as a result of this pandemic outbreak, it was considered as if the African continent was going to be the epicenter, that no solutions will be realized.
I was in fact in Switzerland on an official visit there, and woke up in the morning, turned on the television to hear the news. And that was the first time that there was this worldwide alarm about what had happened in China, Wuhan. And it struck me immediately when I heard it that we would have to act extremely quickly if this thing wasn't going to be what it turned out to be, a pandemic that could have really devastating impact. Already at the time, we heard statements were being made by some, I think there's the woman, Melinda Gates, went on record as saying that we will be dying millions of people in the streets of Africa because of two things. One, there's a lot of contact between China and Ghana. We have a significant population of people who are there, and then we have a lot of our trading community where China is the first source of goods and services.
And debunking that makes sense to a certain extent if you consider videos like this.
There is another more unusual hypothesis. Some scientists believe parasitic worms could be protecting some Africans from the full effects of COVID-19.
Okay, wow, that's pretty weird. One theory says that Africans have parasitic worms which protect them from coronavirus? Like all Africans?
These kinds of videos are videos that goes a long way not to portray the right thing about the African people, which does not really make sense if you consider a channel of this magnitude portraying such a message. There is a lot of disconnect and does not sit well with the people of the continent. Now, if we can revise the way we kind of perceive things, then because this same media is also being consumed by people of the continent. Now, if you're portraying that a particular people are having such the reason why they are not being affected or not having the COVID in a high rate is a result of your analysis, then I really don't find that, most people don't find that funny. Mr. Nana also addressed the big challenge that the African continent faces in terms of its youth population. The youth population unemployment rate in the continent, the number of graduates coming out from the universities, and the problems about jobs. The African continent does have huge resources. This is so important. How can you harness these resources to create jobs? I think he's been going around consulting, looking for business, talking to other leaders to address the unemployment situation about youth in the continent. There is just no opportunity there to a certain extent to those youths, but you have these enormous resources across the continent. Mr. Addo talked about it, the importance of this youth unemployment, and resolving this issue will give the continent a huge competitive advantage as compared to other regions around the world. This cannot be taken lightly because it's a very important thing which the African leaders need to look at. Mr. Nana Addo, President Nana Addo, has done a lot in terms of, he's a businessman from my perspective. African need business presidents in nowadays to go out there and look for business, because you don't have to wait for the investors to come and meet you. You're gonna go to those investors and pitch out your case. We've seen this president traveled around the world looking for business, for contacts, for creating a partnership, development in several ways. I mean, you can't just sit there. The competition is very fierce. So if you sit in your country thinking that investors will just come and meet you there without you going out there pitching your case, the reason why your country, that's the reason why some companies like Twitter and Microsoft and other Facebook and other companies, Meta nowadays, they are looking at those countries that are really seeking for partnership to come and do business in their region. So I think the president of Ghana has done a lot, has traveled enormously in 2021 to look for companies or looking for partnership for countries and lay down the case. And he's also talked about the number of things why Africans should remain in the continent and not travel abroad. We all knew the important speech that he made with the president of France, talking about the reason why Africa cannot just sit there and wait until the Western countries come and solve their problems. This is not going to work. And more Africans dying in deserts and traveling across the Sahara, going the ocean. He talked about these. These are some of the things that the continent should focus on. And it's just so important. And this is so valuable. And if you consider that, you will see that the speech he made with the French president was echoing the voice of the African continent and the African people. Listen to it.
I hope that the comments I'm about to make will not offend the questioner too much and some people around here. I think there is a fundamental misstatement of the issue in the question. We can no longer continue to make policy for ourselves, in our country, in our region, in our continent, on the basis of whatever support the Western world or France or the European Union can give us. It will not work. It has not worked, and it will not work. Our responsibility is to charter a path which is about how we can develop our nations ourselves. It is not right for a country like Ghana, 60 years after independence, to still have its health and education budgets being financed on the basis of the generosity and charity of European taxpayers. By now, we should be able to finance our basic needs ourselves. And if we are going to look at the next 60 years as a period of transition, a period whereby we can stand on our own feet, our perspective has not to be what the French taxpayer decides to do with whatever surpluses that they have in France. They're welcome. They're appreciated. Whatever interventions that the French taxpayer through their governments make to us are appreciated. We're not going to lick a gift horse in the mouth. But this continent, with all that has happened, is still today the repository of at least 30% of the most important minerals of the world. It's a continent of vast, arable, and fertile lands. It has the youngest population of any of the continents in the world. So it has the energy and the dynamism. We've seen it. These young men who are showing so much resilience and ingenuity in crossing the Sahara, finding ways to go across with rickety boats across the Mediterranean to those energies. We want to have those energies working inside our countries. And we're going to have those energies working in our countries if we begin to build systems that tell the young people of our country that their hopes, their opportunity are right here with us. Migration and the movement of people is being presented in a manner which suggests that somehow it's a new phenomenon. There's nothing new about it. It's as old as man, the movement of people. And it has always been linked to the same thing. The failure of where you are to provide you with an opportunity, so you move somewhere else.
Now, if we also feel that the African leaders or the African governments or presidents think that Europe is going to solve their problem, and they're sitting and waiting for Europe to solve their problem, that's not going to work. Africans need to sit together and see how they can resolve their own issues. In the words of Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, who said this.
For me, when I'm watching on television and I find our leaders who should have been working together all along to address these problems that commonly affect their countries, wait until they are invited to go to Europe to sit there and just, you know, it's like they are made to sit down and address their problems. Why does anybody wait for that? What image does it even give about us, about Africa? In fact, the image it gives is that we are not there to even address these problems. We are there for a photo opportunity. We are happy to sit there in Paris with the president of France and address and just talk about addressing problems. It doesn't make sense that our leaders cannot get themselves together to address problems affecting our people. It doesn't make sense.
I think also that the president of Ghana also has laid out, and the president of Rwanda that have pointed out with regards to the COVID vaccine. Now, we've made videos here where we consider that the African countries were just at the receiving end with regards to the COVID vaccine, because Africa does not sponsor research to a certain extent. Of course, there are countries in the continent like South Africa who actually came out with finding out the new variant of the Omicron or whatever the name. Now, we should applaud the South African researchers and the scientists there. But Africans sitting behind and expecting that vaccine should be manufactured and sent to them without making a number of contributions into it, then I really don't see why the continent should just sit and wait. I mean, everybody's fighting for their own. I would say that they're fighting for their own interest to a certain extent. So this particular thing should be something that the continent should address. They should be able to fund research, see how the continent can actually produce their own vaccines and support. There are lots of companies that are ready to come in. In the words of the Rwandan president Paul Kagame, who actually laid out the reason why the continent should be able to manufacture its own vaccine.
In the process too, we've taken some long-term decisions. We've been dependent on other people to provide us with vaccines. That's an intolerable situation. A pandemic that is affecting your population, and you are not in a position to assist the population because you're having to beg other people to give you what they have. It's not a situation that we can live with again, if we can do anything about it. I always think that perhaps we should have learned our lessons from the Ebola crisis when we went through it 10 years ago, but we didn't. So it's better late than never. But out of this crisis, we have to recognize the need for us to have our own domestic capability to produce the vaccines. So that's one of the very important decisions that we have taken. We're in the process of establishing a national vaccine institute manned by a very, very, very capable, world-class Ghanaian scientists. And we're hoping that by the year's end, the beginning of next year, that institute will also be up and running. And they have various phases of development that they're mapping out that will also give us stronger and stronger capability to find the vaccines for our people. So vaccination, I think that now the science is settled. That has to be the antidote to the pandemic, is being vaccinated. I have, I'm sure you have too, and all of us have to be. And now that we are the people who have them, some of them hoarded them, are now completing the vaccination of their own people. I think it's opening up the space for the lesser endowed like ourselves to have access to the vaccines. But it's something that has to be done. And as I say, in the process, we're trying also to position ourselves in such a way that we're never caught again with our pants down as we were this time around.
Hopefully, from our own assessment, we believe that the president of Ghana, Mr. Nana Akufo-Addo, deserves this award. And we want to applaud him for his work in his country. And we also think that his example will rub to the shoulders of other leaders and to see how they can move the great continent forward, and also make sure that there are challenges. Africa should not wait for someone to resolve their problems. Africa should open its hands and look for partners, not just be on the receiving end. There is an abundant opportunity in the continent, and that opportunity should be looked at and also exploited for better and sustainable aspect or sustainable ways that can benefit its people and put in worth and money into the hands of its population. We want to thank you for watching. Hopefully this award was given to the right person, and we think that the President of Ghana definitely deserves this. If you believe that Mr. Nana Akufo-Addo, the President of Ghana, deserves this award as the African of the Year, we would like to hear from you in the comment section. If you feel that he does not deserve it also, we would like to hear from you in the comment section as well. We want to thank you for watching The Explorer. We encourage you to watch some of our videos on our YouTube channel. We are looking forward to meeting you in our next episode. And have a good day. Bye-bye.